Shabbat Shalom. We're just going to take an extra couple of minutes to get everyone settled. If you brought your Chanukah, your Chanukah menorah, there's room up here. You can come all the way up onto the bima or onto the middle riser or to the back of that lower table, wherever there's a space. And take a second to get your candles in solidly. We have some extra candles. So we're just going to take a couple extra minutes to get all the menorahs set up, and then we'll begin our service. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. One more second. My name is Cantor Sarah Beck-Berman. I just remembered, as you all should too, that the prayer book, the Siddur for tonight, is Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat, and it's a long service without one. So if you didn't pick up a prayer book on your way in, they can be found in the vestibule behind you. Welcome to Congregation Beth Ahabah. We're so glad that you're here. How's the sound out there? Can you hear me in the back? Great. Rabbi Nagel is on a well-deserved vacation, and we wish him well. I'm happy to see that so many of us are festive and celebrating Chanukah. So Chag Sameach, Chag Chanukah Sameach, Happy Chanukah, and again, Shabbat Shalom. Joining me this evening in our service is our music director, Natan Berenstein, at the piano, the Beth Ahabah Choir, as well as on the bima with me this evening, President of our congregation, Lee Katz. And of course, all of you who brought your Chanukiyot, your Chanukah menorahs, thank you so much for celebrating together in this way. And I'm just going to put a quick plug. Remember to bring it with you in the end of the service when you leave. If you forget it, we'll bring them to the office and you can pick them up, but remember to bring your menorah with you. All right, we will begin our service tonight actually in our Shabbat programs. When we do use our Siddur, I like to always say that the Siddur, I try to announce all the page numbers, but frequently it's on a 2-page spread where the right-hand side has the Hebrew prayer, the transliteration of that prayer into English, and the translation into English characters, and the translation of the prayer into English. And the left-hand side often has alternative and additional readings and poems on the theme of the prayer. So I invite all of you as we go through our service tonight to read along, to sing along, however is comfortable for you and in whatever ways are meaningful for you. And we will begin with a famous modern Hanukkah song. I think because it's Ladino, sometimes people think that it's been around forever, but it was actually written by Flory Jagoda, who's a modern Jewish-American composer from the 1900s, which can be found in our programs. Chanukah linda está aquí, ocho candelas para mí. Chanukah linda está aquí. Until we've sung that song, am I right? Speaking of Hanukkah, before we light Shabbat candles, we light the Hanukkah candles. And the reason for that is because once we have lit and said the blessing for lighting Shabbat candles, Then it's Shabbat, and we're not supposed to light candles anymore. So we do the Hanukkah candles first. So now that we've got them all set up, I invite everybody to come on up who brought their Hanukkah menorah. If you need the words to the blessings, bring your prayer book. The words to the Hanukkah blessings can be found on page 279. And there is a procedure. So while you're all making your way up here, I will tell you that our procedure includes, first, just lighting the helper candle, the shamash, and then saying the blessings. And then after we say the blessings, we light the rest of the candles, starting with the newest candle, with the third candle. So if you need a little extra room, you can always come up onto the bima at the very top with me. All right. I invite you to allow the grown-ups to use the matches, or adult supervision, of course, is always an option. So let's all light up our shamashes, shamashim. And then together on page 279, because maybe for some of us it might be the first night lighting, we're going to say the Shehechianu as well. We're going to do all the blessings. Let's sing them together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem b'zman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'ehyanu v'kiyamanu v'higyanu lazman hazeh. Amen. Light up your candles, everyone. I'll light up these guys over here. All right. Let's see.
It wasn't as bad as I was worried. I don't think so. Nobody screamed. Nobody came running down the aisle with flames on their head.
I think there's not a menorah twin anywhere to be found. I think all of them are unique and different. How cool is that? Let's turn to page 365. Page 365, and sing another Hanukkah favorite, Maoz Tzur. Maoz Tzur Yeshuati, Lecharoed Shabeach, Tikun Beit Tefilati, V'sham Todah Nizabeach, Leitachit Nadbeach, Mitzar Hamna Yeah, it's Chanukah time, everybody. Let's turn back in our prayer books to page 2, all the way back to page 2. Because now that we have celebrated Hanukkah, and by the way, I invite those of you that are in the front rows or anywhere near the menorah, or anyone who's watching your own menorah, if you see something that needs to be fixed, like it's leaning, then you can just come up and do it. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so we turn back in our prayer books to page 2 because now it's time to welcome Shabbat. So on page 2, we light candles together and then we'll say the blessing. Even more candles. Let's read together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And now we continue as we welcome Shabbat into our midst by saying the Kiddush, the prayer for grape juice or wine, which marks our great joy that it's Shabbat. And that can be found on page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kosho b'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom tefillah lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta b'chol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Delicious. Now that we've welcomed Shabbat into our midst, we come together as one community, and we turn to page 28 for the call to worship, Baruch Hu. Please rise. Amen. the Shema, I ask my favorite question, what phase is the moon in? The answer, it's a waning crescent moon. It's getting so small, and it's only getting smaller because this is Shabbat Mavarachim HaChodesh. So I'll make the announcement. Rosh Chodesh, Tevet, the new month of Tevet, Yiyeh B'Yom Shlishi U'Yom Revi'i. The new month of Tevet begins this Monday night and continues into Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're thinking about the moon and all of the works of creation visible at night as we take just a moment to appreciate our little lights in here as the mirror to all of those bigger lights much farther away up in the heavens. And now we continue with Shema, which is on page 34. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad. Please be seated. We continue with Mi Chamocha on page 40. Mi Chamocha is our song of joy and freedom and redemption, and this evening the tune will be familiar, I hope. Mi Chamocha, Va'elim Adonai. Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot, Osef Eleh, Nora Tehilot, Osef Eleh, Nora Tehilot, Osef Eleh. And we continue in our service with Vishamru, celebrating key words, celebrating Shabbat. And Vishamru is on page 44 at the top of the page. Vishamru, Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, et HaShabbat, HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, leTorah be'Torah. B'nai u'ben B'nai Yisrael, oti le'olam. B'nai u'ben B'nai Yisrael, oti le'olam. Vishamru, Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, et HaShabbat, HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, leTorah be'Torah. Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Vishamru, Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, et HaShabbat, HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, leTorah be'Torah. U'vayom ha'shvi'i, Shabbat vayinafash. U'vayom ha'shvi'i, Shabbat
ושמרו ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We come now to the central prayer in our service, the Amidah, or Tefillah, which begins on page 46 with Adonai Svatai, and then it continues across the next several pages, but we begin together on page 46. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atah, Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv Haruach, Umorid Hagashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim berofeh holim, umatir asurim, umkayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidomeh Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We turn now to page 62, and please be seated. And before we sing our prayer for peace that concludes the Amidah, we take a few moments of silence, relative silence, of course, because as the rabbi who's not here tonight always says, there is nothing better than praying to the sounds of children. Nothing. It's the sound of a happy and a healthy congregation. So we take a few moments of relative silence for prayers, either the words on the page or the words in our hearts. We continue with our prayer for peace, Ose Shalom, on page 62. We take a moment now to think of those people who are in need of healing. And as we turn to page 253 in our prayer books, page 253 to that indented paragraph in the middle of the page, Beth Ahabah is thinking this week of these people in need of healing: John Phillipson, Leo Bezanson, Arnold Strolson, Eden Katzenbaum, Richard Balderston, Carol Kaftan, Bob Marks, Seth Ginther, Neil Gleiberman, Jeffrey Teeger, Charles LeBeau, Rivka Kogan, Colton Richard Schultz Boyd, David Thalheimer, Doug Heidman, Randall Markham Berman, Andrea Bardenett Beam, Lorraine Badofsky, Kathy Marks, Audrey Landers, Alan Arkava, Anita Leibowitz, Alyssa Freeman, Matthew Deinhardt, Hal Kalish, Shayna Hanna Silver, David Butler, Rebecca Eichelbaum, Chung Grubb, Kyle Guzik, Christine Lopez, and Irv Kleinman. And as we think about all these people who are in need of healing, I invite those of us here tonight, as I scan the room, to shout out names of anyone that you're thinking of. It could be yourself, a friend, family, anyone at all who's in need of healing. And if you wish, you can share that name silently, either out loud or silently. And as we're thinking of all these people who are in need of healing, we think also of our world that needs healing as we turn to the middle of page 253 for Misha Berach.
Find
And now for a few words, not about this week's Torah portion, but about this week anyway. Well, once again, happy Hanukkah, everyone. Happy Chanukah. Okay, let's try it again. Happy Chanukah, everyone. Okay. Wow, that was great. Yeah. Now, the American holiday season, which, as we all know, really means Christmas and New Year's, or maybe Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, depending, is upon us. There's lights, there's food, there's songs, and maybe there's too much of all of the above. And at the same time, there is a tension for many of us during this holiday season. A tension between the obvious happy things, the lights and the parties and the family gatherings, etc., and the sad things. Many of us have lost someone, and holidays and family gatherings remind us of those people that we've lost. Sometimes, even if we're just in a bad headspace for whatever reason, being around people trying to get us in the spirit is a challenge in and of itself. So whatever the struggle may be, the struggle is often all too real during the American winter holiday season. I lost my mother almost 2 years ago, and it was exactly 2 years ago on Christmas Eve that she went into the hospital. So basically this year, from Thanksgiving onward, there has been a subroutine operating in my programming, if you will, of holiday blues. I usually call them the sads. When I take time to notice the sads and I talk about how I'm feeling, it brings up those feelings, so ugly crying, but then I feel better. When I do not do that, then I end up getting wound up like a spring-loaded dreidel, if you'll forgive me for saying that. As I was thinking about this, I was struck this year by an idea which I wanted to share with all of you. In noticing the onsets of the sads just earlier today, it occurred to me that not only does it help when I tell stories about my mom to process feelings of loss, of grief, and of missing her, that this is actually part of our holiday. It's baked right in. You've heard the old adage, they tried to kill us, they failed, let's eat, right? You've probably heard that before. Now, it's whimsical, but ultimately, it's not totally inaccurate in describing many of our festivals, including this one of Chanukah. And for the people who lived through the trauma, telling the story every year was, I have no doubt, a method to process their ongoing feelings and experiences. Or throughout antiquity, perhaps a vehicle to process similar challenges that Jews were living in their own day, which maybe didn't have a special holiday attached to them. And that had me thinking about holidays in a bit of a new way this year. Because these days, when we tell the story of Hanukkah, it's usually a somewhat sanitized version. The edges have been sanded off by time and distance. The story has been transmuted into myth. And that lessens the emotional impact. It's easy to forget that for someone in the past, whatever that real story was, there was a real story before the mythicization. So, for example, when I tell the story of my best friend's great-grandfather, who would pour too much syrup on his pancakes and say, whoops, I guess I need more pancakes. And then he'd have not enough syrup, and he'd say, whoops, I guess I need more syrup. You get the idea. When I tell that story, I don't get that hit of the sads that I imagine someone else more directly connected to him would get in retelling that story. And that's just a few generations ago. The Hanukkah story happened more than 2,000 years ago. The emotional impact for us today is therefore never going to be the same as for those who lived through that story or who were closer to that story. So the addition of the parable about the oil lasting 8 days only adds to this effect. The original Hanukkah story was about a group of guerrilla fighters who won the day over a larger and militarily superior force. The parable of the oil lasting 8 nights was added by the rabbis many centuries later, and it's a great one. Don't get me wrong. Adding more light at the darkest time of the year is a timeless theme, as we learned in the rabbi's sermon last week. But ultimately, it is just another example of how the story transmuted into myth. And I don't think that's bad or good. I'm not putting value judgments on it, I'm just pointing it out. The same thing will one day happen to all of our stories as well. All those poignant little moments, like me lighting my hair on fire during Hanukkah candle lighting, literally happened this year. I've never done it before, but now I can say I have. Could one day become a story that's told and retold by people who never even knew me. You tell your children about how I lit my hair on fire as a warning, and then they're telling their grandchildren one day, and they didn't know me, it's fine, you know. But the emotional impact is different, right? We read the Torah anew every year because even though the stories stay the same, we change. So we read the stories differently every time because we're different and we get something new from them every time. We celebrate the same holidays every year, and though we may try new recipes or new tunes, some aspect of that also remains the same every year. But we change. Hopefully we're growing and we're changing all the time for the better. So this year I'm reflecting on the memories that give me the sads and the happies. I'm doing my best to talk about and share the stories in my life, process the emotions, be the best version of myself that I can be. Chanukah and retelling the Chanukah story has taken on a new meaning for me this year because telling our own stories is part of the miracle too. All of us are the miracle. We're still here, and all of our stories are worth sharing. So I hope that in the next 5 days of Hanukkah, I think I counted that right, and in the coming year, you will share your stories too. If over time they get a little mythologized, the fish gets bigger every time, right? Well, it's part of the process. But it's important for us to tell and retell and re-retell our stories from the Torah, from the Midrash, from the holidays, and from our families. May telling your stories bring you light and peace and hope. Because no matter how dark our stories become, we have only to look at the stories of our own past to know that things don't stay bad forever. The only constant is change. So I hope that we can keep hope alive by remembering that things can get better again for us and for the world. Amen. And Shabbat Shalom. As the choir comes back to their seats, we will continue in our prayer book on page 282 with the Aleinu. I know, it wasn't that long of a sermon though. On page 282, the Aleinu is in the middle of the page, the second paragraph, and when we reach the end of the Aleinu, we'll continue on page 287 with the V'ne'emar. So I invite all of you to please rise as I prepare to open the ark for Aleinu. You may be seated. We take a few moments now in our service to think of those people who have come before us as we turn to page 294 for the Mourner's Kaddish. At Beth Ahabah, we're thinking of the families of those who've just recently passed away: Anne Levy Bentheim, Ilya L. Kogan, and Bill Ginther. We're also observing the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of passing this week, of Shirley Shapiro Ehrenstein, David Ehrenstein, Evelyn Askin Bear, Henry Brownfield, Edith Lindemann Kalish, Samuel Epstein, Shirley Finn, Shirley Fortis, Eleanor Stein Friedenberg, Teresa Eisenman Friedman, Williams Fulton, Marjorie Gardner Weinberg, A. Stewart Goodman, Betty Sue Grandis LePage, Minna Tallheimer Heller, Esther Kay, Denise Goodman Kyle, Bella Kessler, Nina Rebecca Keston, Frances Commons, Ruth R. Kruder, Esther Kuttner, Judith Archibald Lang, Nathan Lanter, Mr. Philip Levine, Raphael Levy, Amanda Logan, Arnold Lowenstein, Myrtle Mannheimer, Herbert Marks, Steve R. Midget, Alvin W. Moeller, John Bosney, A. Lewis Polier, Robert Merrill Robb, Ruth R. Rappaport, Regina Reinhart, Alma B. Rosenbaum, Charles C. Schwarzschild, Mose Slusky, Wendy L. Spanier, Henry Stern, Selma J. Tischler, Gregory Wensman, Eva A. Whitlock, and Morris Zeichner. And so I invite those of you here this evening in our beautiful sanctuary and watching on our YouTube channel to just take a moment, think about those people that we've loved and lost. And if there's anyone that you're remembering, if you're in Shiva, the 7 days of mourning following a loved one's death, Shloshim, the 30 days of mourning following a loved one's death, if you're observing a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing this week, or if there's simply someone that you'd like to remember this Shabbat, this Chanukah, then I invite you to share those names with the congregation out loud or hold them in your heart as I scan the room. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. And we think of all these people as we turn to page 294, and I ask those who are in mourning to please rise, those who are observing a yahrzeit to please rise, and as is our custom here at Beth Ahabah, the entire congregation to please rise as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish together on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach li'alam ul'almei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to the entire world. And let us say, Amen. Yehi zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing. Please be seated. It's my pleasure at this time to invite to the podium, it's right over there, Lee Katz, our congregational president, for a few greetings and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Happy third night of Hanukkah to everyone in our beautiful sanctuary and everyone watching on YouTube. As always, thank you to the cantor for double duty tonight. Appreciate that. To Natan and the Beth Ahabah choir for a very lovely service. Religious school, Beit Midrash, and Torah study are all on Hanukkah break hiatus this week and next week. And believe it or not, next Shabbat, Friday, January 3rd, our first Friday service of 2025 will be followed by dinner and activities. Members can register now via the e-news. Now looking ahead, it's time to register for the winter session of adult learning beginning Monday, January 6th. We are excited that the rabbi will be teaching difficult discussions, how Jewish wisdom can inform constructive disagreement. Those taking this course will learn to navigate conflict in conversation and engage in constructive discourse. Other classes in the new session include Intro to Hebrew with Hazan Marian Turk, Jewish Cooking, Ashkenazi Influence Winter Menu with Dan Schroeder, and Volunteer Choir continues, meeting with Cantor and Natan for class descriptions, or to register, see the Adult Beit Midrash registration page on the website under the Education dropdown. And don't forget to bring new or gently used blankets to the donation box in our lobby. Mitzvah Corps is collecting these blankets for the Richmond Police Department's Community Care Unit. Saturday, January 11th is a very busy day. First, you got 9 a.m. Tot Shabbat for children 0 to 5 and the adults who drive them around. At 10:30, guitar workshop with the rabbi. At 12:30, Talmud Lunch and Learn for learners of all ages. And that night is the Brotherhood-sponsored U of R basketball event. Pre-game pizza and soda in the Hall of Fame room at 5 p.m. Game time is 6 p.m. Bring your family and friends and have a good time. Ticket prices are subsidized by the Brotherhood, and you can purchase tickets through the e-news or using the QR codes on your Shabbat programs. And lastly, please see your Shabbat programs for several other upcoming amazing opportunities and programs in the month of January. To see other upcoming events and registration links, please look at the back page of your Shabbat programs and the weekly e-news or website calendar. And again, thank you all for coming and attending, and Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Lee. Well, we're getting to the end here, so it's time for challah and chocolate. So if I would like to invite all the children to carefully make their way up onto the bima, and then we'll say the blessing for the challah. We'll just give everyone else a chance to catch up. Yeah, nobody's hair gets lit on fire, okay? That's only me. It's terrifying. Okay. Let's not do that. Okay. These are electric, yeah. So, okay, you want to come around back here? You can carefully come around back here. Okay. Alrighty. All right, let's say the Hamotzi first. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. All right, take one piece and let other people take some too. Okay. Make sure to share it with other people. Very good. Yeah. Whoa. Just a few, okay? Because you want to make sure everybody gets some. Okay. Very good. And now, as we're distributing challah and chocolate, if there's any left, I'll have Lee bring it down. And we're going to turn in our prayer books to page 365 for our closing song, Not by Might, which is taken from the Haftarah prophetic portion for Hanukkah in Zechariah.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody doing okay?
Aiden Harrison. We're not burning this place down.
Okay. So, I think there's a little leftover challah, Lee.
Okay.
You gonna hang out here with me? You can? Okay. Alrighty, page 365. Let's sing our closing Hanukkah song. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, Ruach, shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, Ruach, shall we all live in peace. The children sing, the children dream, and their tears may fall, but we'll hear them call, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, Ruach, shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, Ruach, shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power. May this week of Hanukkah and the new year all bring us joy, peace, gladness, and of course opportunities to tell our stories and maybe feel even a little bit sad sometimes, along with all of the happy times. Amen. Shabbat shalom. And Chag Sameach, everyone.